right, welcome everybody. Welcome to the first day of, I guess, the live class portion of the program, I guess. And so, just as a reminder, it'll be Monday through Friday, roughly 6 to 9. It will be possible that sometimes maybe we go a little bit past 9, but I'll do my best to make sure we don't. But just in case, it just kind of depends on how fast or slow we're going through whatever it is. Yeah, so 6 to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. And this class is, of course, starting today, August 11th. And we are looking to finish on the first week of December. It was technically supposed to finish on Thanksgiving, technically, but because of those holidays, I want to give us another week so that we don't feel rushed. And so technically, our last day should be like December 2nd or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so that's roughly the way it's looking. And so we can go ahead and we're going to start each day with a question of the day and potentially a hotkey of the day. When we run out of like hotkeys or shortcuts, then we won't do that anymore. But we'll go ahead and start with a question of the day, just kind of like an icebreaker. We'll get to know each other and yeah, kind of go from there. Okay. So let's see. So we're gonna go ahead and start with today's question of the day is what brought you to this class and maybe what is your goal for yourself here? Maybe by the end you want to be able to like build an app or like a website, or maybe you want to kind of like change careers, or you just want to learn, you're just curious, or could be anything. And so what interests you and what brought you to here? And so the way that kind of these question of the days are gonna start is I'll answer first, and then from there I'm gonna select someone. From there, whomever I select, they'll answer, and then they'll select the next person until we kind of get through. And actually, sorry, before we start, I did want to say welcome to Lana. Lana is going to be our TA. She took the last class, and she's actually really, really great. And so feel free, ask her any questions, anything like that. And then the other person, I guess maybe we'll just kind of do a little bit of an intro as well when we're doing it. Kind of just say who you are, because we also have Junior here. So welcome Junior as well. Junior joined last week. All right, cool. So to answer the question, what brought me to not necessarily this class, but maybe what brought me to when I joined a code school myself, like 5, 6 years ago. Really, my goal was to change careers. At the time, I was working at a fulfillment center actually in Las Vegas. I was working at an Amazon fulfillment center, and it was good. I think I was doing a job that I think is necessary. But at the same time, I just felt like it wasn't where I saw myself long term. I think that it was a great experience. I got to meet a lot of people, got to learn a lot of things, but I wanted something that I felt would be a little bit more sustainable so I could take care of my family and I wasn't going home like exhausted. And so that's kind of what brought me to it is me wanting to kind of be able to take care of my family in what I believe to be a little bit more sustainable way. Yeah, and so Lana, if you don't mind going next, and you can choose the next person.
Hi everybody, my name's Alana. What brought me to coding is I was kind of something similar. I was trying to like start a career because before I was working at a pizzeria, so I just wanted to like kickstart my career, and I wanted to do something remote because I have a daughter, so I didn't really want to put her in daycare. I wanted to be able to be home and take care of her and spend time with her, all that good stuff. So yeah, that's me. And I'll choose Ron.
What's up, guys? Ron here. What got me into coding is also, it's very interesting to like explore new things. So I just wanted to pick up like an extra skill set and, see where it gets me from there. Definitely the working remotely, so more time with family for sure. Okay, next would be O'Brien.
Uh, is it muted still? I'm good. Okay. Hey, everybody. My name is Junior. I think I resonate with everybody just kind of looking into the field of computer programming. Definitely see that it's going to be part of everybody's future. So learning how to interact with technology and whatnot. Just not just going to a website or whatnot, but just seeing how everything works. It's always been interesting to me. Also, looking at possible career change and whatnot, and like all of you, spend more time with the family. And let's see, Francisco.
What's up, guys? You guys don't have to call me Francisco. You can call me Kiko for short. I work in multimedia. I do a lot of like content creation, and I fly drones and stuff. So I wanted to just take one step up and level up and get into building programs and apps for that type of industry, like construction industry to project management, all that kind of stuff, like helping streamline all that efficiency and helping companies get better and while we're getting better, obviously. So that's my in on it.
Got you in Matt.
Adrian, sorry.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Hi, name's Adrian. I actually work at ITNE for about 4 years now, as their junior network admin. Originally I was a network apprentice, but now I'm like a junior network admin. The reason why I joined this school was so I can kind of shift careers. I really want to go for a remote job because my current hobby is competitive gaming, and I travel a lot for that. So I'm hoping to get a remote job involving coding, and I also like coding a bit more than computer networking after the years I've spent. So I'm hoping for a career change. Uh, E-login? Sorry.
Hello. So um, at a young age, I always liked computers and gaming, and I thought this class could help me advance in like getting better at coding and creating websites and everything.
Super cool. Well, thank you all. Throughout the class, we'll obviously get to know each other. We're gonna be spending the next 16 and a half-ish weeks together, 3 hours a day, 5 days a week. So we'll definitely, we're gonna have a different question day every day. So we'll definitely get to know each other a lot better. So super cool. Thank you all for sharing that. All right. So the way today is gonna look is we are gonna do an introduction to Ruby. I know I went through, for the most part, I kind of explained what programming is, what Ruby is, why we chose it, and then we did go through a little bit of like variables and stuff like that. And so we're going to do a refresher of that, and then we're going to kind of expand to continue through like basically different different core concepts, conditionals, and things like that. Okay. So sorry, before we go and start, I maybe quickly want to touch on it, like just a quick refresher of what is programming. And I know we went through this already, but it's okay. We're just going to do a quick refresher. So programming in its most basic sense is really we're kind of giving the computer a set of instructions to tell it to do something. What that is that we're telling it to do could be a bunch of different things. It could be telling it, hey, print this out in my terminal, like what we have all done already. Or it could be maybe, hey, display this text on this web page or whatever it may be. Maybe it's like run this algorithm to do this calculation as things get more complex or whatever. But there's a bunch of different things that we can do. But in its most basic sense, it's really we're giving the computer a set of instructions for it to follow. Really, that's kind of all it is. And so with regards to those set of instructions, there's different, I guess, languages or different different syntax that we could use to tell the computer what to do. And so the language that we are going to be using to begin with is Ruby. Um, I like Ruby, as I've kind of told you all, I like Ruby because it's super beginner friendly. Again, like if you guys were to look up Java, C Sharp, C, things like that, to me, they just don't look not only do they not look, I've tried messing with them and they're not as beginner friendly. I think to kind of get started with even just printing out something to the terminal, there's a whole lot more setup that you have to do to kind of get that done. Whereas with Ruby, we kind of open up a code editor, VS Code, for example, to puts hello or something like that. And then in our terminal, we just do Ruby space, whatever the file name is. So little things like that. I just that's why I like Ruby so well. And that's why I think it's a great language to start with. But then from there, really truly once you understand the core concepts of one language, it's very, very, very doable. And I don't want to say easy necessarily, but very doable to kind of pivot to another language. So if you like Ruby, Python's pretty similar actually. And maybe you want to get into some, data science things. So maybe you can pivot to Python, or maybe, you're interested in other things. And so yeah, just wanted to share that. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and open up VS Code. So I'm going to share my screen. Let's go and do this. And so I would recommend, it's completely up to you how you structure it, but I have the way I have my folders structured is that I have a CSG folder for Code School of Guam, and then from there I have one specifically for you guys' class. After that, for like the work that we're going to do in class, people have done different things. I've had some people where they like to create a week by week folder. So for example, this week is going to be, I would create a folder for week one, for example, and that'll be all of the work that we're going to do this week. It's all going to go into week one. Some people just like to put stuff or not necessarily organize it that much. So it's completely up to you on what you do. I'm going to go ahead and create a folder. So within you guys' class folder, I'm going to go ahead and create a folder for week one. And then each week I'll kind of do week two, week three, etc. So that way I know exactly where we're at. And so to create a folder or to create a directory, technically, it's going to be mkdir for make directory. And then from there, it's going to be whatever the name is. For example, week one. Cool. So now if I do an ls, now I have this week one folder. Cool. So next, I'm going to go ahead and cd into week one, change directory week one, basically. And now I'm going to click enter, and now I'm here. And so from here, I'm just going to do code space period. And as a reminder, or as a, I guess, refresher, code space period, all it did was it opened up VS Code, but specifically it opened up this week one folder that I just created within VS Code, which technically has nothing, which is perfect. So, sorry, it's my screen. All right, cool, there we go. Okay, so within here, I'm gonna open up a terminal. And so as I mentioned to all of you guys, more than likely, while we're doing like simpler things, I guess, things that aren't gonna be requiring a server, more than likely, I'll be using the built-in VS Code terminal. As we get to more complex things where maybe we're running a server or something like that, that's where I'll probably use basically like a standalone terminal rather than using the built-in VS Code one. Ultimately, it's up to you guys. I know a lot of people here are on Windows, so if you guys are using the Ubuntu one or command prompt or the Mac terminal one, whichever one you guys want to use, completely up to you. But that's kind of my preference on the way that I structure things. Okay, so within week one, I'm just going to create a folder, and I could either do touch and then create the folder itself, or I can use so technically this is called a GUI or graphical user interface. It's basically like, it's basically something that someone built for us that way we don't have to write it in the terminal. So I'm going to click this plus button, and I'm just going to call it practice.rb. .rb because it's a Ruby file, and I'm naming it practice. I'm going to click enter. Perfect. Now we have practice. Is everyone able to open up VS Code and create a file? All right, cool. Feel free, let me know. I tend to kind of, especially now that we've went through a bunch of the stuff that we're gonna, at least in the beginning of class, that we went through already, or we went through it already. I'm gonna go through it a little bit quick, but if there's anything that you want, or if you want me to slow down or want me to re-go through any concepts, just feel free to speak up, unmute, speak up, anything like that, and more than happy to. All right, cool. So the first thing we're gonna do a quick review on is we're gonna we'll quickly review puts. So how to print something out to the terminal. So puts, which stands for, technically, it stands for put string. That's technically what it stands for. And it's just basically going to print something out to the terminal. And so to create our first thing, we're going to do puts. And then maybe I want to say like, hello class. And so now if I do that, actually, I'll turn that off later. And so now that we have puts hello class, now I can go here and I can run Ruby space, and then it's going to be whatever the file's name is. So for example, practice.rb, click enter, hello class. Perfect. And so that's how we're able to print something to the terminal. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do, we're going to quickly go through is the different data types. So the four that I think is the most important for us to go through right now is going to be a string, integer, float, and Boolean. So these are the four that we are going to use. Okay, and I actually forgot to do hotkey of the day. Today's hotkey of the day, and so I'm gonna create a folder here actually real quick. Create a channel, and I'm gonna call it next hotkeys. Great. Cool. So I just created and I added all of you guys to this hotkeys channel. All of the hotkeys are basically these shortcuts that I'm going to use. I'm going to put them in here. And so today's hotkey of the day is going to be command. Whoever's on Windows, it'll be control, but whoever's on Mac, it'll be command. So it's going to be command or control question mark. So as soon as I highlight the text, now I can do command question mark, and it comments or uncomments it. So that's going to be today's hotkey. So it's going to be command plus question mark, command slash control. Control. And this basically, it allows you to comment or uncomment any highlighted lines of code. And so this isn't specific to Ruby. This is actually in any language for the most part. Depending on which language you're using, it'll be a different symbol. For example, in JavaScript, it's // but in Ruby, and I think in Python and maybe one or two other languages, it's a hashtag. Okay, so that is today's hotkey of the day. And so I'll be putting, you guys, we'll kind of fill this up. There's not going to be a lot of hotkeys, but there'll be a few, maybe like, I don't know, 15 or 20 or so. Okay, so back to this data type. So we have string, integer, float, and Boolean. So a string. We went through it a little bit already, and so I want to see if anybody can help me to figure out what is a string. Can anyone help me? Anyone have an idea of what a string is? Because we went through it a little bit already.
Characters.
Bunch of characters, perfect. So a string is basically a bunch of characters within quotes. So anything within the quotes is going to be a string, basically. So for example, if we did puts, hello, my name is Leon, a string isn't just hello. It isn't just any single character in here. It isn't even just the space. A string is the entire thing, anything within the quotes. That is the entire string. So now if we run this, we see, hello, my name is Leon. So next we have an integer. And just to kind of quickly go through it, an integer is basically a whole number. So for example, puts 10. And so we can see that specifically, I'm not wrapping it in quotes. If I was to wrap this in quotes, now it becomes a string. Now it's no longer an integer or a number. Okay, the next one we have is a float, which is basically a number with a decimal. And so, for example, puts 999. And so once again, if I put this in quotes, it's no longer a float, it will become a string. And so specifically, we're doing it without quotes, and it has to have a decimal for it to be a float. Technically, they're kind of the same thing, but the way that the system actually treats these are slightly different. And so that's why it matters. And that's why they switch, or that's why it matters whether or not it's a float or an integer. That's why technically they're not exactly the same thing. Okay. And then finally, we have a Boolean, which is ultimately, it's just true or false. So it could be puts true, puts false. And so those are kind of all of the main data types that that's going to matter for us for at least the first week or so. And so if I run this, we can see now we have basically printed out everything that we told it to. Okay, cool. So actually, I'm going to do this. I'm going to move all of these down. Okay, cool. Okay, so the next thing we're quickly going to touch on before I have you guys kind of try out and exercise yourself is we're going to go through variables. Go ahead and do this. Okay, so a variable. So a variable is a way for us to store some data, or basically for us to store a value and assign it to some word. So that way we can reuse it over and over and over. And so, for example, let's say I did name equals Leon. So now I did name equals Leon. So now instead of printing Leon directly, now I can just print name. And that value, or that should give me the value of Leon. So if I run this, we see it says Leon. And really kind of one of the benefits to doing this is if I wanted to call that 5, 6 times, now every single one of them says Leon. If I wanted to change it to Alana or whatever it may be, now it's Alana, etc. So if we had this a million times, instead of having to change it in all those million places, we can just change it in where we set the variable. And now we've officially changed it all, which is perfect. Okay, so and then the final thing we're going to touch on is before I give you guys some exercises is concatenation, and interpolation. Because these are all three of these concepts are what we've went through already. So concatenation, kind of as a quick review, would be, so for example, I'm going to create some variables. I'll create some down here. Let's do name equals Leon, age equals 26, and we'll stick with those two for now. Okay, so for example, for concatenation, we do something like puts off a day, my name is, or we can say I'm, and then from there we do a space, and then go outside of the quotes. We're gonna go plus name. All right, I'm gonna turn this tab complete off. I really want to turn this. I do not want tab complete right now. All right, guys, give me 1 second. Okay, cool. There you go. Okay, half a day. Oh, it's still doing it. Whatever, I'll figure it out later. So half a day, I'm Leon plus, and I'm age dot to s years old. All right, cool. Let's go ahead and print this out. We print this out. It says half a day, I'm Leon, I'm 26 years old. And we can see I have an issue with my spacing there. And that's because I didn't put a space. Run that again. And there you go. We see it printed out properly. And so now to do interpolation, it'd be the same thing, but to me, it's a lot nicer. It'd be half a day, I'm name, and I'm age years old. Perfect. And so I'm going to remove that extra quote, run this again, and we can see half a day, I'm Leon, I'm 26 years old. And so we can see two ways to do the exact same thing. Some things with concatenation that I'm going to point out is that we have to explicitly kind of write out these spaces. If we don't, then it literally is adding this string or this string to the ending of this. So if we don't put that space, there won't be a space. That's exactly why when I wrote it out here, there was no space between 26 and years old. The other thing that we're going to note is that I had to do this conversion. If I don't do this conversion, and I'll explain what that is, we're going to get some errors. So this error, and one thing I kind of want everyone here to do is get used to kind of reading these types of errors. Because the faster you can fix the error, the faster you can kind of move on to the next thing and debug it rather than getting stuck here. So we can see practice RB, line 29. So it says no implicit conversion of integer into string. So basically, we're trying to add a string plus a string, because name is a string, plus another string, plus technically this is an integer. And so then another string. So basically, we cannot add strings and integers. It has to be all strings or all integers. And so what we had to do was Ruby has a built-in method called .toS to string to basically convert age. So now technically, we just did this. We made it a string, which is perfect. Okay, so that's what's it called? That is concatenation and interpolation. And as I mentioned before, nine times out of 10, I'm probably using interpolation. I don't really care to use concatenation just because of all these little things that we have to keep an eye out for. To me, this is just cleaner, it's easier to understand, etc. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and give you guys an exercise. I'm going to put that in exercises. So the exercise. So create 4 different variables and print them out to the terminal. From there, after that, I'd like for you to basically use string concatenation and interpolation to print out a sentence using all 4 variables. And then the bonus or extra is going to be to print out what data type each variable is. So remember, we quickly touched on this in pre-work, and so I just want to add that as kind of like an extra bonus thing. Cool. So once again, the exercise, I want you guys to create 4 different variables and print them out to the terminal. So kind of similar to what I did. I only created 2, but create 4. And then from there, you're going to use string concatenation and interpolation to print them out, to print out a sentence using all 4 of those variables. And the bonus to print out what data type each variable is. Okay. So now I'm going to ask that everybody here, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to ask that everybody here goes ahead and shares their screen. So that way I can take a look, Lana and I can kind of take a look at what you're doing. We can just make sure everyone's on the same page, basically. And feel free, ask any questions. We went through that pretty quickly because I remember we went through that before. Hey, Adrian, you're really, really close. But a couple things. So for one, so in Ruby, all variables are going to be lowercase. So that first name, we're going to go ahead and change that to be lowercase n. And then also for true and false, also lowercase t. And then the last thing is I want you to take a look at how you're printing out on 14 versus how you're printing out, for example, all of here. And let's see if there's perfect. Yep. So print, we could use print, but print's more used in Python, with that syntax.
Got it. Sorry, it was a habit.
Right?
Yeah.
And then go ahead and just also remove the quotes. Remove the quotes. I mean, not quotes, parentheses. My fault, not quotes. Yeah, go ahead and try running this again and see what happens.
Okay, so
Put in lowercase the n. Sorry, coming, Junior, 1 second. So technically, so it matters what case, it's case sensitive. Like if you put an uppercase N, technically that name and lowercase name would be different. That's why it's doing that. Cool. So you got that going. All right. Sorry, Junior, were you saying something?
no, just let me see. This one, okay, I should do this here. There. Okay. So here's my variables.
Perfect. And actually, Junior, is it possible for you to share your screen?
Oh, it's not showing?
No, not right now.
Shoot. Let me see. Share. There.
Perfect. I see your screen. All right, cool. Okay. So actually, there's a few things that I want to, a few kind of concepts or ideas that I want everyone to go through real quick. So I'm going to stop everyone sharing just really quick, and I'll let you guys start sharing just again in a second. Sorry. A couple of things I want to touch on. How did I do that again? I'm just going to do this. All right, cool. Let me share my screen real quick. Sorry, there's a few things that I didn't explicitly say, and I apologize for that. So there's a few different things within ideas in dealing with variables, but also just kind of programming things that are best practices. And so one thing that I'm going to recommend everybody do is run their code as much as possible. And what I mean by that is like if I'm doing some if I'm making some changes, I'm implementing something, whatever it is, I'm writing some code. I don't want to do like so much, I don't want to make so much changes and then I'm going to try to run my code and then like if it breaks, what if it what if it broke with one of the other things I did? Like let's say I did 10 different things. If it broke at step 3, I'm gonna have to debug and then okay, cool, I fixed step 3. What if then it breaks at step 5, et cetera, et cetera. And so the point I'm trying to make is like if I do some logic, so let's say I'm doing like name equals Alana. And then from there, I want to kind of test that out almost immediately. Let me test this out, make sure this works. And then from there, like let's say I'm going to interpolate something. I want to do half a day. I'll do that same example. Half a day, my name is, and then I'll do name. Cool, let's get this working. Cool, I got this simple version working. Now, okay, cool, let's go into the next one. Let's go age equals 26. I want to add, now I'm going to add, and I'm age years old. I'm gonna go here. I'll run it again. Perfect. Off today, my name is Alana and I'm 26 years old. I want to add village equals Barragata Heights, for example. And I live in village. I'll run it again. Cool, we can see it's working. And so I guess the point I'm trying to make here is rather than doing a whole lot of writing out a bunch of code and then running it to test it, I feel like a lot of times it might take a little bit longer, but in the long run, it's going to save you a lot of time with regards to debugging. And what I mean by debugging is kind of figuring out why is it not working the way I want, like testing it out and trying different things, etc., basically. And so that's one recommendation I have for everybody. Ultimately, of course, it's up to you. But to me, I think the best practice is you do a little code, you run your code, cool, it works properly, move on to the next step. Okay, cool, move on to the next step, etc. That's just kind of a general thing, a recommendation that I have for everybody. The few other things that I wanted to touch on with regards to variables is, for one, in Ruby, variables are always lowercase. If I do capital N, this shouldn't, and I'm going to comment this out. This code shouldn't break. It's not breaking, like it's not erroring out. However, capital letter variables are used for different things that we're going to get to in the future. Actually don't even think we use this very often. It's very rare that we're going to have a capital. But that's something that we'll use kind of when we get to Rails. We'll use capital letters more. Right now, it is case sensitive. And so if I try to run this, so this name and this name are technically different. And the reason that is because to a computer, what's it called? The way that it kind of reads it technically is this N and this N are technically not the same thing. It's technically a completely different character. To us, yes, it's the same thing. It's just a different, one's uppercase, one's lowercase. But to a computer, when it's compiling it into basically something it can understand, technically, this is different than this. And so that's why we're always going to make sure that we're using it's even the same case matters. And the other thing is, in Ruby and in most languages, we're going to use variables with lowercase. So we're always going to use lowercase. And the last thing that I quickly wanted to touch on is that where we put the quotes matters. So for example, there was sometimes where if I, for example, I'm writing out a variable, and I'm going to comment this out and I'm going to start again. So if I do like name equals Leon, and then I click enter, and then I start typing like age equals 10, one thing I want you guys to look out for is the, what's it called, syntax highlighting. Basically, and what I mean by syntax highlighting is what is the color of the text. So we can see this age 10 here versus, if I uncomment these ones, versus the rest of this stuff is different. That means that this age equals 10 is technically just a part of this string because it started with this quotes and then it ended with this quotes. And so to fix this, I'm going to delete that extra quote, and then we can see we have that we have this error right here. So this is one of the reasons we installed like Rubocop or those things. Basically, we want this linter to help us out. So we can see that there's a little red squiggly line. If I hover over that, it says unterminated string meets end of file. Basically, it's saying, hey, there's a quote here. There's no end quote. Where does that end? As soon as I add that quote, now we can see it's not erroring out anymore. And we can also see the syntax highlighting, or the color of age equals 10 is different. It's kind of looks better. It looks proper in a sense. And so there's a couple things I wanted to share is that for variables, we're always going to use lowercase. And then also for strings, we have to just kind of keep in mind where our beginning quotes and where our end quotes are, because it matters. Because if we don't end it, then for one, it'll error out. And if we kind of just keep typing within the quotes, technically everything is just going to be a part of that same string. Sorry, and there's one other thing with regards to, I guess, naming conventions. This is the last thing. Sorry, last thing I wanted to share. In pre-work, I did something like is raining equals true. And I use this underscore. The reason I use this underscore is because in Ruby, the convention is to use something called camel case. Camel case. The idea with camel case is we're going to use an underscore to separate words. In other languages, they use something called, there's other ones that are like snake case. And there's other naming conventions. But for example, they're perfect. It kind of gave the example. And so we see is raining, but we're capitalizing the first letter of the next word and we're not using an underscore. So JavaScript uses snake case. And so Ruby by default uses is raining. It wouldn't break if I was to use it either way, but the convention or the standard that people writing Ruby use is camel case, which is exactly why if we're writing Ruby, you'll see me use an underscore if I'm writing a word that has two
if I'm writing a variable that basically contains two words, I'll be using an underscore because it's technically we're using camel case. Because I don't want to write something like that or is raining like this. To me, that's not as readable. The underscore helps it to make more readable. Or we would use snake case, but again, that's in a different language. Okay, cool. Does anybody have any questions on the idea of the way we're gonna name variables with the underscore, that it's lowercase, and how to deal with strings? Any comments, questions? Okay, cool. All right. So before we continue, it's 6:45. Usually we'll take our first break around 6:50, but it's already 6:45. We're gonna go ahead and so every 50 minutes, the goal, I tend to kind of go past it a lot of times. I'm sorry, and I apologize for that. And so just shoot me a message or say something, hey, are we able to take our break or whatever? But so every 50 minutes, we'll take a 10-minute break. So that means every hour we'll work for roughly 50, get a 10-minute break, 50, 10-minute break, etc. So we're going to go ahead and take a 10-minute break. We'll come back at 6:55. And then from there, I'm going to let you guys get back to working on this exercise. All right, cool. So I'll see you guys in roughly 10.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Okay. Give the others a second. All right, cool. So, as you guys get back, you guys could turn your camera on, just so we can see again. But so I'm gonna give you guys time to work on the exercise again, but I made a small change to it. Instead of create four variables and print them out, I'm having you guys create three different variables, and it's gonna be, I'm even giving you guys what variables it is to make it a little bit more straightforward. So it's gonna be name, age, and village. And so basically you're gonna use string concatenation and interpolation to print out a sentence using I'll update all three variables. And then the bonus is to print out what data type each variable is. And you guys can reference previous code that you guys have wrote for pre-work. And also there is, of course, some stuff up here that you guys can reference as well in the exercise channel. Cool. So I'm gonna stop sharing my screen and you guys are good to share again and try it out. Give you guys like five, maybe 10 or so, 7 minutes on this before we move on to the next topic. And give you guys like 3 more minutes, two more minutes or so. So like 7:05, and then we're gonna move on to the next. Hey, Matt. So what I want you to take a look at real quick. So let's take a look at this error. So we have a syntax error. And right off the back, though, what I'm noticing is if you look at this puts, here, sorry, let me grab my thing so I can draw. This puts versus this puts. And also, like, for example, if you look at this text, like all the syntax highlighting for line 19 is a little off. And so more than likely what that means is that like somewhere like we're messing up, we're not messing up, but we're missing quotes somewhere. And so actually what I want you to take a look at is let's take a look at line 17. And I want you to specifically see if there's anything that you notice wrong with it or anything that we can fix. And so my hint is that there's the beginning quotes right there. So where's the end quotes for this sentence, for this string? So close. Go ahead and delete that real quick. Actually, really close. Let's go ahead and put the end quotes right here at the ending of it. And so basically, so what you were doing was if you put the quotes here, you're doing more of like string concatenation, where after each string we put the quote. So that was really close. But for interpolation, we just put it at the ending of the thing. So go ahead and do a delete real quick right there. Or actually, is that part of the ending of it already? Okay. Go ahead and delete that and redo the quote. I don't know why it looks like that. Okay, that's fine. Okay, cool. So now it's just go ahead and close this side, like drag this arrow, drag that like all the way to the end. All right, cool. There you go. Now that looks, I guess, normal in a sense. All right. So one thing I want you to notice is now if you look at the syntax highlighting for the strings, they're all the same. And even the puts, they're all the same. And so that's what I want you to take a look at for next time. And so now let's go ahead and rerun the file and see what happens. I'm not sure. Let's see. All right, cool. So we have another error, which is perfectly fine, but let's see. So practice 2RB line 15, uninitialized constant mum mum. So I want you to take a look at line 15 and tell me, or not, I guess see if there's anything that you think you could fix there. So actually, I want you to take a look at line 13. Okay, perfect. You're good for it. You just had to wrap it in quotes. All right, so go ahead and try to run this again. Perfect. There we go. All right. Okay. So now you got that. Let's see. Cool. Yeah, everyone else looks like maybe like a minute or so because I see Ron, I see you're working on that, which is great. And then from there, we'll move on to the next topic. All right, cool. All right, you guys are good to stop sharing your screen. And I'm going to share my screen. We'll go through the solution real quick, and then we'll move on to the next concept. All right, perfect. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and comment all that out. And so the exercise, just to quickly go through it, Why did it do that? There we go. So create three different variables for name equals who the next person, junior is the next person on my screen. Age equals, I'm just going to say 26, and village, I'm just going to use my own Vergata Heights. Vergata Heights. I'll make this a little bit bigger. Okay, cool. And so we're going to use string concatenation and interpolation to print out this sentence using all three variables. So we'll go and start with concatenation. So let's say puts, and then we're going to say half a day. And I really want to turn that off. I thought I did. I think I need to restart my VS Code, but I'll do that after this. Half a day, my name, or we'll do the same thing. Half a day, I'm, and then we're going to go plus name. Let's run this to make sure it works. Half a day, I'm junior, perfect. And so now we're going to go plus quotes, and I'm quotes plus age, and we have to go dot two underscore s. We have to do two underscore s because age is an integer and we're adding it to a bunch of strings. Let's go ahead and try this. Half a day, I'm junior and I'm 26. And now we can go plus, and I live in space, and we're going to go plus village. Cool. And I live in Barragata Heights. Perfect. And to do it with interpolation, we can go half a day, and we're going to interpolate name, and I'm interpolate age, and I live in interpolate village. Run this again. Cool, we see the same thing twice, exactly what we want. And if we were to change this to the next person, let's say Matt, for example, that's the next person on my screen, you can see now it says Matt. If I was to change it, whatever, it would change again. And that's kind of one of the big concepts with that I want you guys to understand with variables is the idea is that we set this variable in one place, and then we're able to kind of use it and manipulate it as much as we want in other places. So even if I wanted to print this 10 times or whatever, now I can run it and we can see it's printing out all 10 times. And as soon as I change it to Adrian, the next person on my screen, run it again. Now we can see it says Adrian, etc. So again, the idea here that I want you guys to get is that with setting it one time, now we can reuse it as many times as we want, which is pretty cool. Cool. So any questions on variables, interpolation, concatenation, anything like that? Yeah, let's go, Kiko. Kiko, you had a question?
What if our stuff is saved? Remember last time you kept telling me to control S? So
Yeah.
it's saved on my file. What if it's not lit up like say how yours was all white, like the age, name, and uh whatever years old? I'm doing it all right. It's just my name and age aren't lit up the same way everything else is.
Could you share your screen and could I take a look real quick?
Okay, give me a sec.
Yeah. I'm gonna stop sharing mine real quick. And let's see. Mhm. All
So
right, cool.
everything
I
up
see
here
it.
is already set, right?
Yep,
And then hold on. Let's close this. I'm gonna save it. So the white dot disappeared,
correct.
and then it should be all there. So if I do one of these phases, this one, so but
We go and do a WSL first to turn on Ubuntu.
what do you mean?
So if you look, I know for sure that or to me it looks like you're not in WSL yet. Or are if you LS, will it break?
On my right hand side, it says I'm in WSL or shit.
Interesting.
Does it?
Do Control C. Okay, now try typing in WSL. There you go. Okay, I was just wait. I knew that like one of the
Now,
settings that we did was to make it blue, and so I was like waiting for that.
see
Okay,
now I can do all that stuff, right?
so wait, so real quick, so we're never gonna put like the puts whatever within the terminal. That all of our code that we're gonna write is gonna be
Up
within
here,
here.
right? Okay.
Over down here within the terminal, all we're doing is we're like telling the computer, hey, run this file. So that's exactly why we're gonna say Ruby space whatever the
That's what
file name is.
that's what you're doing.
Yep,
Ruby space practice. Damn, we did this last week.
correct. Okay,
Okay.
no worries. So what I want you to do is cd space tilde. So right now, because for whatever reason you're not in the root directory, so now we can know we're in the root directory of your thing. So do ls now. Perfect. Cd into practice. So delete the into, just cd and then practice.
Oh shoot.
Perfect. Do ls. All right, cool. So now what I want you to do is code space period. So where if you and before you click enter, or it's fine.
Oh,
If
you
you
did.
look right there on the top where this file says it's at, it says it's in users user k practice.rb
Yeah.
versus where practice. So this is on the Windows side. We want to be in the WSL and Ubuntu side. And so for Windows, it's really weird because when we use WSL, we're using kind of like a virtual machine, which is it's a little bit weird, but it's a way for it to kind of be easier in a sense. It's a little bit complicated, but it's like it's easier ultimately. But anyway, so whenever we, I guess go ahead and open up the other VS Code window. I guess we'll do that first because it should have just opened it up another VS Code window.
Yeah, I did.
Okay, cool. So go ahead and bring you can close this one out and then open up the other one. Just bring the other one to the screen. All right, cool. There we go. Yep, perfect. Okay, now go ahead and click into practice.rb. All right, cool. So now go ahead and open up a new terminal, click the three dots, and then open terminal. Sorry, three dots right here. Perfect. New terminal. Now, what I want you to do, go ahead and type in WSL to turn on WSL. All right. So now go ahead and type something and like puts, and actually go ahead and go to Slack and just copy my example. Um, that way we can see, make sure it works. So you can just copy the example from pre-work, the variables, puts name dot class, all that kind of stuff. Copy that whole thing and then paste that into your practice.rb.
Into this, right?
Correct. Okay, cool. Perfect. Now go ahead and run this code. So do Ruby space and then practice.rb. Cool. There we go. And so yeah, there's a few things going on, but the main thing is that so the way that I want you to kind of get started at the beginning of the day is I want you to open up Ubuntu or whatever, PowerShell or anything. It doesn't really matter which one. And then I want you to go to basically we want to go to the root directory. By the root directory, we're going to do that cd space tilde to make sure you go to where it just says that tilde. Once you know that you're in that root directory, you can do an ls and you should always see this practice folder. So you would cd into practice and then you would do code space period. So that way it then opens up VS Code within the correct folder. The issue was that that VS Code window was in the wrong place. It was pointing to the
My
wrong
screen.
place, basically. Yep, I see your screen. Perfect. So I see that CD
This.
tilde. So go and do ls.
Okay.
Perfect. Now there's practice. Go ahead and CD into practice. Cool. Now do codes. Now you don't have to do code space period, but theoretically, right now is when you would do code space period to open up VS Code within that specific folder.
Okay. Understood.
Yeah.
Oh,
So that's, yeah. every day we'll go in like that'll be the rough flow. Unless we're like so eventually we're gonna be using different folders and stuff like that, and that's where you're gonna CD into whatever folder that is. But for the time being, practice is perfectly fine.
If I have the extension on my VS Code, do you want us to run that instead of PowerShell?
You could, yeah, why not? Yeah, you could try it out. I haven't used that one too
Why
much,
it
so I can't
doesn't
speak to it.
Okay, I'll figure it out.
Yeah, I'd say mess with it and let me know. Let me know what you think.
Okay.
I'm still waiting for to get my Windows laptop back, so I haven't been able to mess with it.
Yeah, that's right. You're not on Windows. Okay, thanks. Solid.
Yeah, cool. All right.
Sure.
Any other questions, concerns from anybody? Everyone's on the same page? All right, cool. Okay, cool. So let me go and share my screen again. Cool. And then the last thing, I guess, just do the bonus. So to print out what type of data type this is, and actually let's just go to run this, make sure it works. Ruby practice.rb, perfect, it works. And to print out what data type, we're just going to print out whatever the name is. So for example, or whatever the variable is, and let me comment this out. I'm gonna do like puts name, and then if we remember, Ruby has a built-in method called class. So I'm gonna do puts name dot class. And so as a refresher, a method or a function is basically, it's like some code that someone wrote that you're going to use because they're providing some sort of functionality or something. And so someone wrote this dot class method and they put it in the Ruby language. So that way, if I want to check what type of data type or what class a specific variable is, I can just take the name of that variable and I can put period class. And so that's one thing we could do. So now I can go puts age dot class, puts village dot class. And if I run this, we can see string, integer, and string, which is perfect. And so here, I'm going to share this code with you guys. So that way you guys have the solution. Solution. There we go. And now we are going to move on to the next topic. Okay. So the next thing that we are going to touch on is some, here, I'll comment that. And it's going to be arithmetic operators. So basically, how can we add, subtract, divide, multiply within Ruby or within like programming, basically? So it's actually very, very straightforward. For example, for addition, we can do like puts. And so we're going to have to be using numbers or integers, basically. So for example, puts 1 plus, plus 1. So now if I print this out, we can see it says 2. If I was to change this to 5, we should see it says 6, etc. So printing out is really, really straightforward. I mean, doing math is really, really straightforward. And it's the same thing for subtraction, etc. For example, let's go addition right here. We're going to do over here, let's do some subtraction. After that, we'll do some multiplication, and then we'll do some division. And then there's one more that we'll show you guys, but we'll get to that. So for subtraction, same thing. If I did like 10 minus 5, and I run this file, we see it says 5. And it also says 6 because I didn't comment that out. For multiplication, it's going to be like to 3 times 3. Puts 3 times 3. If I run it, we see it says 9. And for division, same exact thing. Puts 10 divided by 2. Run it. We see it says 5. Perfect. If I was to change this to, say, 4, get it like a remain. Oh, it does. So by default, it's not going to give you the remainder. And so that's actually the last thing I wanted to show you guys was the modular operator. So if we did puts 10 mod 4, now it's going to give you the remainder, which is 2. So technically what it's doing is this division by default doesn't give you the remainder. So it's just going to give you the whole number. So 10 divided by 2 is technically 2 point whatever, but it's giving you 2. It's only giving you like the whole number. The remainder, it's not giving you that. If you want the remainder, you can do the modular. So the modular, and so if I was to change this to 3, so we should get modular of 1, because technically 3 times 3 is 9, So if you're divide 10 divided by 3, it would be 3 remainder 1. So now this modular should give us 1. So we see there it says 1. Basically, it's giving you the remainder. Gives you the remainder. It's a little bit weird the way that these two kind of work. These three are very, very straightforward, as we can see. These two, they're straightforward once you kind of work through it a few times. But basically, all you need to understand is if you're going to do division, if there's a remainder, it's not going to give you that remainder. It's not going to do like 10 remainder 2 or whatever, or 10 point whatever. It's not going to give you that. This one is going to give you only the remainder. And this sometimes is actually nice to use. Like if I was to try to figure out, for example, and we won't go through this right now, but like if I was to try to figure out what is even and odd, if there's a modular of 1, or if there's a modular, then it's probably, depending on what I'm doing, it'll be odd. If there isn't, then it's even. And like that's one way we could kind of use this down the line. We're not going to do that right now, but I just wanted to share like kind of one of the reasons why they do it this way. Because it isn't super straightforward, but depending on what you're doing, it actually makes a lot of sense. Okay. So yeah, so these are some basic arithmetic operators. We have addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and the modular operator. Do we have any questions on this so far? All right, cool. So the next thing I'm gonna have you guys do is I'm gonna have you guys try this out. And I want every solution to be, so I want it to be that you set a variable to this. So for example, sum equals 5 plus 1. And then from there, I want you to print it out like this. I'm gonna comment all of these out. And then I want you to do puts, and then it's gonna be like sum equals, and then you're gonna interpolate it or concatenate it. And then now when I print this out, we can see it says sum equals 6. So I don't want you to print out directly whatever the sum is. I want you to set it to a variable and do the same thing for subtraction, multiplication, division, and modular, or the modular operator. And I want you to print it out something like this. It doesn't need to be exactly this, but I basically want you to print it out. It could be a colon, that whatever. It really doesn't matter. Okay, so let me slack out that exercise for you guys. Cool. So you're going to create variables using all 5 different arithmetic operations or operators, and then you're going to print out each variable kind of with like a string on what it is, string/sentence, make it easy. And then for example, I'll give you guys this example. Addition example. All right, cool. So you guys are good to share your screen and try it out. I'm going to stop sharing. And I'll also share, let me just share this code. Why not? That way you guys can see the modular and stuff. There, that's there in Slack. And then I'm just going to grab a glass of water real quick. I'll be right back while you guys are doing that. Hey, Junior, that syntax highlighting, that's okay. That's more or less a warning. So that's why if you when you hovered over it, it said like it was declared but never used. So basically, you declared what difference is there on line 11, but technically at this point in time, you're never using that specific variable. By using, you're not like telling it, hey, print out difference or using it in any way. And so as soon as you put the interpolated difference right here, that yellow squiggly lines are all going to go away because now you're using the variable that you declared. So that's what that's saying. Hey Matt, your stuff is perfect actually. I have no issues with it. But the one thing that I would recommend just for best practices is to use lowercase for all the variables. Yeah, but we can see it's not broken, it's working. But just because in when we get to Rails, which is when you get like building on more features or more things basically, it's gonna matter whether or not it's uppercase or lowercase. So yeah, so I'd recommend to use lowercase for all of them. But other than that, solid. Okay. I'm gonna add a bonus exercise. Bonus. And it's kind of like you're going to have to kind of put multiple different concepts that we are going through together to do this. So let's see, let's do this. I like for you to program. Okay, I just shared the bonus. The bonus is basically I'd like for you to create a program to calculate the area of a rectangle. And the hint that I'm giving is you're going to define variables for length and width and multiply them together. Because what's it called? The area of a rectangle is length times width. Hey, Kiko. Okay, perfect. Looks like you're looking up to it. All right, cool. Cool. So Kiko, I want you to take a, yeah, so we're looking at line 6, and basically it's saying that, hey, like, what is two and what is much? So basically what I'm trying to say when I say that is whenever there's a word that isn't in quotes, we're referencing a variable of some sort. So it's like, hey, what is much? Where did you set what variable is two and much? Technically, those variables don't exist. So it's like, hey, undefined variable two and much, basically. That's what that's saying.
Should I put it in quotations then? No.
Yes, that's yep, exactly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So if you ever want to use a string, like basically use some text or some characters, you're gonna put it in quotes.
Yeah, I kind of see it. So I figured out kind of I it's kind of stupid of me, but everything we do
No,
here, uh it's kind of just click. Sorry. I don't know how to
no,
say it.
no, that's good. No, I mean they're not gonna get everything right away, and once it clicks, it's gonna make sense. I get exactly what you're saying.
Okay,
There you
thank
go.
God. Yeah. So
Yeah.
Hey Leon, sorry, I have a question.
Yes.
So besides I understand like employers value projects as a way to show your skill,
For sure.
but do you see do you see any value in getting certifications as well? Because I've seen so many jobs where they're asking for like Python certified or Ruby certified and stuff like that. I was wondering what your input is or your opinion
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
I think it doesn't hurt to get those certifications by any means. I think it could help. So, like for example, I think having a degree, just a general degree, could very much so help you to land a job or at least help you to in the process of landing a job, like give you the opportunity to interview, for example. So I guess to what you're saying, I do think having more certifications could help you to land more interviews in the sense that they're like, okay, cool, this person should have X knowledge because they have all these certs. However, that's not going to guarantee you the job. What's going to me, the more important thing is that you're understanding the different concepts and that you're able to prove that. Because in an interview, that's ultimately what you're going to be doing is you're going to be proving to the interviewer that you understand whatever it is that they're asking of you. And so I
Okay.
do think those have value in the sense that yes, more credit or more certifications or whatever could help you land an interview. But ultimately, what's going to matter is whether or not you actually understand whatever it is. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think yeah, that answered my question.
Cool. Yeah. No, feel free to ask anything. You guys can, I like it. I want you guys to understand you guys can ask anything at any time. Like I'm down. I'm pretty much an open book. All right, cool. Looks like everyone's made a lot of progress with this. So you guys are good to stop sharing your screen and we'll quickly touch on the solution for the bonus as well. And then we'll move on to the next concept. Okay, so let's do this. I'm gonna grab that exercise and I'm just gonna put it right here. And then I'll even put the bonus here at the bottom. Okay, So create variables using all 5 arithmetic operators and print out each variable in like a string or a sentence on what it is. So I already did the sum, so now I'm going to do subtraction. Let's go, what's it called? Difference equals that. And then let's do the sentence, go puts, go difference, colon, yeah, we'll do that. Run that, perfect, difference works. Do the same thing with multiplication. So it's going to be the, what's it called? Product equals that. And then from there we can go puts, cool, we'll do that. And then we'll do the quotient equals that. And then puts quotient that. And then finally, put modular equals that and puts modular colon that. From the file, cool. And one thing that I'll point out that kind of I did was at first I was testing after every single time that I did it. I did this, then tested it. I did this, then ran it. By tested it, I ran the file. And then after that, and I was like, okay, then I just did all 3 of them. Depending on what you're doing and how comfortable you are with it, of course you can do a lot more stuff and then run it. But especially when we're starting out and as things get more complex, I just recommend running your code as much as possible. Because let's say that I did all of this logic and then everything was wrong. And then I'm kind of debugging it. So then I'm going to start debugging this. And then I'm like, okay, it's still not running. Then I'm going to have to debug the next one, the next one, the next one, etc. Versus if I do it one by one, I do this, I test it out, I know it's working. I do this, I test it out, I know it's working, etc. And it's tedious, but like as things get really complex, you'll notice that that's going to help you a lot. Because ultimately, if you're going to end up spending a lot of time debugging things, and it's just you could just save yourself a lot of time. Okay, so and the bonus. So calculate or sorry, create a program that calculates the area of a rectangle. So we're going to go length equals 5. That's right. I really want to get rid of this autocomplete. Width equals 4, and then area equals length times width. And then we can even do puts area equals that when length equals length and width equals width. Cool. Cool. Area is 20 when length is 5 and width is 4. Perfect. All right. Anybody have any questions on arithmetic operators? All right, cool. Let's go on to the next thing. The next concept we're going to go through is we're going to do some more practice with strings, and we're going to work on manipulating strings. So manipulating strings. And actually, I'm gonna close out VS Code because I think that I was able to fix this thing. I don't want autocomplete anymore right now. It's S. Okay, cool. I think I turned it off finally. Okay, so manipulating strings. So, and what I mean by manipulating strings, I guess, or first, as we know, a string is basically a bunch of characters within quotes. So, for example, name equals something. This is a string. Anything within the quotes, it could be sentence equals that is super cool. This and this are pretty much exactly the same thing in that they're both strings. They're the same data type. Having more or less characters or having special characters of numbers or whatever, this is just a string. And so once again, this is what a string is. And so now we want to figure out how can we manipulate or what can we do to strings? How can we manipulate them? And what are some different examples of how we can manipulate them? So basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using some other built-in methods that come with Ruby to, for example, make a string all uppercase or to reverse a string or to see the length of a string or different things. So for example, I'm going to do name. I'll just continue with name. So name equals Leon. What if I wanted Leon to be all uppercase for whatever reason? I could do puts name And then so let's just print this out just to show you that it's not uppercase. And then now if I do dot upcase and run this again, we can see now it's all uppercase. So this is using another built-in Ruby function that somebody wrote, one of the creators of Ruby. So that way, whenever we wanted a word to be all uppercase letters, we can just do period to signify that we're going to call a function, and then we can call the name of the function, which is upcase. And so that's one way we could do it. Another thing I can do is if I wanted everything to be downcase, to be lowercase, I can do name dot, I think it's downcase if I'm not mistaken. If I run that, perfect. We see everything is lowercase now. Another thing I can do is what if this was I don't know, what if this was, let's do something else. Something equals test, or let's go test, all lowercase. What if I only wanted to uppercase that first letter? I could do puts name dot capitalize. Now, if I run this, we can see, I didn't mean to do name, I meant to do something. We can see that only the first letter is capitalized. So that way we can only capitalize the first letter of a sentence. Maybe we have a sentence or we have a string and we want to just capitalize that first letter. This is one way we could do that. Another thing we can do is let's try like puts name dot reverse. It reversed the word. We can also do, I want to see how long is this string. So now I can go puts name dot count or dot length. It's 4 characters. If I add a bunch of characters, we run it again, we see now it's 12 characters, etc. And so the point I'm trying to make here is that there are a bunch of different methods that Ruby comes built in with that you can use to manipulate different things. And one thing I'd kind of recommend you guys do whenever you guys have time or kind of as you guys have time is to go through the Ruby docs. So here's the documentation for Ruby. And let's specifically, for example, I want to go through, let's go methods. Let's see. So let's see, for example, method to reverse a string. Let's see, string. So here's a bunch of different methods you could do to kind of do different things. But basically, there's so many different things you can do with it, and there's a lot of documentation for it. We're not going to go through the documentation at the moment, but I did want to share this all with you guys. And so here, I'm going to share an exercise for you guys to try it out, and I'll give you guys like maybe like 3 to 5 minutes to mess around with these specific 5, and then maybe later on you guys can do some research to try some other methods online. Okay, so exercise, use the following built-in Ruby methods to manipulate strings and print them out. So it's going to be dot upcase, dot downcase, dot capitalize, dot reverse, and dot length. Wait, I'm going to spell exercise. Okay, cool. All right. You guys are good to share your screen and try these out. And one thing actually as a bonus, I'll add the bonus after. The bonus is basically to try using multiple methods together. Bonus. Try using multiple methods together. Right, cool. Yeah, you guys need to share your screen and try that out. Thank you. All right, Junior, I just saw your question. What is the difference between, thank you, Lon, for pointing that out. What is the difference between a method and a function? They're the same thing. It's just different ways to say the same thing. Depending on what language you're using, sometimes people might call it a function, sometimes people might call it a method. And you'll hear it kind of interchangeably used here. Great question. Let me give you guys like 4 more minutes or so to mess around with this, and then we're gonna take a 10-minute break. All righty. Let's go ahead and take a 10-minute break. We'll come back at 8:05 and we'll continue. Welcome back, everybody. All right. So let's do this. All right. So the next thing we are going to go through, actually, I wanted to say I'm really proud, I guess, or happy, and that you guys, I'm watching you guys, and you guys seem like you're getting it really quick, but together with, I'm really happy to see you guys kind of looking at the error message. And what I mean by that is like if I type something in, whatever, I'm just gonna say something or do like something else, whatever. I don't know. And I run this. It's failing, but it's like, why is it failing? And so for you guys to take the time to read this and kind of, even if you don't understand it completely, at least use it to help you to debug it. I think that's a huge win. And I think that's something that, if you guys are doing on day one, it's going to help you down the line. So if you guys make this a habit, I really would recommend it and continue to keep up with it. And I just wanted to kind of, whatever, let you guys know I see you guys doing that, and it's really good for you guys to do that because this is going to be something that you're going to have to get used to. Is there's going to be bugs all the time, and so how are you going to fix it? Is you're going to have to read the error and figure out what is the next step on how to do it or whatever you need to do. And so, for example, in this error, it says undefined local variable or method something else. Excuse me. And so basically what this error is saying is, actually, first, let's do this. Whenever we write something out, whenever we have text, it's either going to be a string, it's going to be a number, or it's going to be a variable name, like some name. And so what this error is saying is basically it's saying, hey, what is something else? Undefined local variable or method. There's no method called something else, and there's no variable in here that's called something else. So it's like, hey, what does that mean? That doesn't make sense. And so that's why it's saying that. As soon as I go equals something cool or whatever, as soon as I make that a variable, now I can go put something else. And if I run this, now there's no error. It's not erroring out because now something else exists. The issue was that we were trying to use something that doesn't exist. That's why it's a name error. It's like undefined local variable or method. And so once again, if there's anything I want you guys to get out of this, I want to thank you guys for reading the errors and I want you to guys to continue with that because this is something that's going to help you out in the long run. Okay, cool. So all right. So the next concept that I want us to go through is how to get user input. So in order to make our applications interactive, we need to be able to get the user's input. And so we're not building like a full application yet, but we're still able to, Ruby provides us a way, basically Ruby provides us some methods that we can use to get the user's input within the terminal, which is actually really, really cool. And so specifically, what we're going to be using is two methods called gets.chomp. So gets is actually the method that gets the user's input, and chomp, technically what chomp is doing is by default, when a user types in something in here, there's kind of like a special character. The special character is something like this. It's like /n. This is just like to create another line. And so what chomp does is chomp is going to remove this special character so that way it's no longer there. And so the way that we're going to use this is we're going to say like name equals gets dot chomp. And then I can, for example, now I can print out what name is. So we're going to assign, what's it called? We're going to get the user's input and then assign it to name. And then from there, we're going to print out what name is. So if I run this file, we can see there's not, it looks like it's kind of just like it's still running, but basically what it's doing is it's waiting for us to start typing something in. And so for example, I'm going to delete all that. I'm going to say name is Leon. And then from there, now it prints out puts name, which is really cool. So we were able to get the user's input with these two methods right here, gets.chomp. And so to make this kind of nicer, let's do this like puts, what is your name? Question mark. Name equals gets.chomp. And then maybe we even do like puts, how old are you? And then from there, we can say age equals gets.chomp again. And then now we can do something like puts night. That's super cool. So your name is whatever name is, and you are age years old. So let's see. So the way that this should work, and I also another thing I like to do is kind of go line by line. So the way this should work, what we're expecting to happen is it's going to print out what is your name. After that, we're going to get the user's input by assigning it to the variable name. And then we're going to ask, how old are you? And we're going to assign that also to a variable called age. And then we're going to use interpolation to basically print out a sentence using those values that we set up here. So let's try this out. If I run this, what is your name? My name is Leon. How old are you? I'm 26. That's super cool. So your name is Leon and you are 26 years old. Super cool. I think it's really cool because we're actually able to literally like this is dynamic in the sense like we're getting user input. No longer are you using hard coded data. By hard coded, what I mean is you're literally saying name equals Leon. So this is something that would be hard coded. Something that's dynamic is going to be something where it's like depending on what the user inputs or depending on what the situation is, that's going to determine what this value is, which to me makes it dynamic versus hard coding the value. Any questions on this idea? Okay, cool. All right, so I'm going to give you guys an exercise in Slack, and you guys are going to try using gets.chomp. Exercise. So I want you guys to write a program that asks the user for their favorite color, and it's going to respond with a message about their favorite color. Actually, I wanted to ask for their name and their favorite color, and then responds with a message based on what they said. Cool. And I will also share this code so you guys have a reference. All right, cool. You guys are good to share your screen and try it out. Try writing a program that asks the user for some stuff. adding a bonus. So the bonus is to create a simple program that asks the user for their first name and last name, and then it's going to greet them with their full name. I added one more extra like thing to try out once you guys are done with that one. Try removing the dot chomp to see what it does. And you guys will see what's the reason why we have to do gets dot chomp rather than just gets. Hey, Adrian, you're really, really close. One question that I have for you is what is first and what is last? Perfect. That's exactly what I was looking for. Yeah, so you were trying to use the variable name, but you weren't ever using it. And then you were trying to use first and last, but you never created them basically. All right, cool. You guys are good to stop sharing your screen. And I'll quickly want to show you guys the bonus in that extra thing. And then we're gonna move on to the next example or next exercise. Let me share my screen. And so if you guys noticed, removing the dot chomp, it makes a difference. Ultimately, the functionality is still there, but then it's kind of weird. And so here, to work on it with you guys, I'm gonna do this bonus right here. So create a simple program that asks the user for their first name and last name and then greets them with their full name. So we'll need a first name and a last name, and then it's going to print out whatever their full name is. So we can say first name with what's it called, camel case equals gets.chomp. And maybe I want some sort of greeting. So do like puts hi, what, or what's your first name? Question mark. And then from there, after that, let's get their last name. What's your last name? Last name equals gets dot chomp. And then from there, I should probably run my code, but I'm just gonna do this. I'm gonna do puts off a day, first name, and then last name. Let's go and run this. What's your first name? Leon. Last name Shimizu. Afide Leon Shimizu. Perfect. It's exactly what we expected. And so now I'm going to show you guys what happens when I remove the dot chomp. So if I remove that, and I'm going to go ahead and leave that one there. So we'll see one difference. Go ahead and run this. What's your first name? Leon. What's your last name? Shimizu. We can see it says Afide Leon, and then on another line it says Shimizu. The reason it's doing that is because, as I mentioned, when we do gets, by default, there's this like, basically there's this character. This character basically I don't know, I don't remember if it's that way or if it's this way. Actually, it's this one. Sorry, no, it's not airing out. So it has this, and so what this does at the end of this stuff is it creates another line. So that's why it says Hafide Leon. Right after this, we don't escape that character. So technically, this is there. So it's like, okay, cool. Put the next thing on a separate line after that. And so that's technically what's happening. And so let's go ahead and put the dot chomp back. Run it again, make sure it works. Leon, Shimizu, cool, we see it works. And just to show you guys what that looks like here. So if I was to put, for example, I'm going to put it right here. So I'm going to put that \n right here. And now if I run this, we can see it skipped a line. If I move this to, let's say, right here, I'm just going to delete that extra space, run this again. So now it says, what's your, and then it escaped this line, brings to the next line, and then it's okay, first name. So that's what the dot chomp does. Gets the user input, dot chomp removes this character. Cool. Questions, comments, any? You guys feeling okay? All right, cool. Okay. So the next thing we're gonna touch on, I think two more concepts. Yeah, one or two more concepts. And so by the end of this, we're gonna be able to have a really simple, but we're gonna be able to create our own simple kind of chat bot where like we get the user input. If the user answers something, we can kind of answer something else, etc. And so what I kind of just mentioned there with like if the user does this then something else. Basically, what I'm talking about is a condition. So we're going to talk about conditionals. So we can think of conditionals, I guess conditionals, they allow us to make decisions based on a specific condition, based on a variable, for example, or something, based on a condition. And so it's like if the condition is this, or if this is true, do something. If it's not, do something else. Kind of as simple as that. So for example, let's say number equals 10. And so we can say if number, and actually maybe before we get into this, I'll show you this first and then we'll go through it. So if number is greater than 10, and then I'm going to put an end. So this is the first time we're seeing kind of an if and an end. So one thing I want to point out here is that I'm creating a condition. I'm going to say puts greater than 10. So we're saying if this variable number is greater than 10, which right now, let's just make it greater than 10, then it's going to print out this, and then it's going to end. One thing I want to note about this conditional is that we have to, wherever there's an if, there has to be an end. And so that's why as soon as I wrote this first line, I automatically put my end. I would recommend that because like as these conditions or these loops or functions, basically we're going to write ends with loops, functions, conditions, and there's maybe a couple other things. But as soon as like as these get more complex, if you forget to put the end, it's going to be possible that there's going to be like a bunch of things in here. And then from there, it's very easy to forget to put this end. And so that's where, as once again, as soon as you write this first line, this first condition, I recommend you put your end right away. And so the way that I would usually write this out, just to do it again. So if I'm gonna do if number is greater than 10, I click enter, and then I'm automatically gonna type in end. And then I'm gonna go back inside there. So for example, puts greater than 10. And so, okay, so let's run this and let's just see what happens. Cool, it prints greater than 10. If this was not greater than 10, let's make this 9. We run it again, it doesn't do anything because we added a conditional. So the condition again, it's basically if this is true, do something. If it's not true, do something else. And so before I have you guys kind of go into this idea of conditions, there's a few things that I want to go through with regards to comparison operators. So comparison operators. So there's a few different comparison operators that are important for us. There's going to be double equals. There's going to be greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, and then of course the regular greater than, less than, and then the last one is going to be or sorry. No, we won't do or, I'm sorry. We don't need or right now. Yeah, okay, these are the main ones right here. Sorry. I was thinking of and or, but we don't need to do that right now. Okay. So double equal sign, and I want you guys to understand that this equal sign is different. This double equals is different than single equals. If you're using single equal sign, one equal sign, you're setting what a variable equals to. If you're using double equal sign, you're comparing what is before it to what is after it. And so for example, if I did if number equals 10, and so now then print out, just to make it make sense, number is 10. So we're saying only print this out if number equals exactly 10. So if I run this, it's not 10, so it's not printing it out. As soon as I change it to 10, now we can see number is 10. So that's one thing I want you guys to understand is that this and this are different. Single equal sign versus double equal sign. This is for comparing. This is for declaring or setting what a variable is. Okay, so that's what the double equal sign is. Basically checking if the before value equals exactly what is after the equal sign. Sorry, could have maybe put that better, but yeah, that's what that is. Okay, so now for the greater than or equal to, relatively straightforward. If this number is greater than or equal to 10. So for example, to show you guys the example, So if number is greater than or equal to 10, for now, number is, and I'll just change this to greater than or equal to 10. So right now it's exactly 10. If I run it, number is greater than or equal to 10. If I change this to 11, still greater than or equal to 10. As soon as it's below 10, if I change it to 9, now it's no longer printing it out because it's not greater than or equal to it. In order to get this to be true, I have to use the less than or equal to. So I change it to less than or equal to. Now I'm going to say less than or equal to. So now if I run this, number is less than or equal to 10. If I make this to 10, just to show you guys that it still works, it's still less than or equal to 10, etc. And you guys, of course, saw me use the greater than. So if number is greater than or less than 10, etc. And so you guys kind of get that. Does this all make sense so far? Cool. Okay. Okay. So now the reason why we're using these comparison operators are important is for things like conditionals. And so let's go ahead and so we already see kind of this relatively simple, what's it called, condition. The next thing I want to do is like, what if there was multiple, like, what if I still wanted to, right now, if this fails or if this is false, basically, then it's not going to do anything. What if I want it to do something, like regardless of whether or not it passes or fails, I want it to tell me, give me some feedback. And so what I could do is I could say else puts number is not less than or equal to 10. Let's go to run this. So we still get the number is less than or equal to 10 because number is less than or equal to 10. If I make this, let's say 20, I can run it. Now it says number is not less than or equal to 10 because we're saying if this is true, do this. Else, so basically if this is false, do this. So this is a way that we're kind of doing some error handling in a sense. It's like, hey, if it passes, then do this. If it fails, do this. We're always giving the user some feedback though. That's kind of the important thing here. Okay, and then the last kind of variation of this is what if we wanted to listen out for another condition? So for example, I'm going to change this to if number is greater than 10, I want to print out number is greater than 10. And then from there, I'm just going to put it down here just to keep it simple. I'm just going to put something else because it doesn't really matter right now. And so if I wanted to, what if I want to listen out for, I basically want to add another condition. So I can go else if. So it's kind of weird in Ruby, we do else if. It's like ELSIF rather than literally spelling out the two words. And so now I'm going to give the condition number equals 10, for example, puts number equals 10. And so now we have a few different conditions going on here. We have a couple different conditions going on here technically. We have if number is greater than 10, print out that number is greater than 10. Else if number is exactly 10, print out number equals 10. If neither of these conditions are true, then just print out something else. Just to keep it simple. So let's go ahead and try it out. So number is greater than 10. If I change this to 10, number equals 10. And then if I make it go below 10, something else. So we can see each different condition based on what it is we're doing. Okay. All right. I'm going to give you guys an exercise to try this out now. And then from there, what's it called? We'll move on to the next thing, which kind of will be building upon this. Okay. So I'm going to exercises. Okay. So this is going to be a little bit of a kind of have to think a little bit and put together with different things that we've been doing today. Okay, so I want you to write a conditional that checks if a user's age is 18 or older and outputs an appropriate message. And if they aren't, it should, or yeah, that kind of makes it, whatever. And outputs an appropriate message kind of takes care of if it's true or if it's not. So, okay, you're gonna have to kind of, So the first, and I guess before you guys start on this, one thing that I want to share is that let's start with a hard coded value. Actually, sorry, we'll make that the bonus. Bonus use gets dot chomp or get the user's input to make age dynamic. Okay, that'll be the next step. Get the user's input to make it dynamic. So the first thing I want to do is figure out how you're going to write a condition that checks the user's age, and depending on what they say, there give some sort of message. Say you're older than 18 or you're greater than whatever. It's up to you on what you say. But yeah. Okay, cool. So you guys are good to share your screen and try it out. I'll give you guys a little bit of time on this. All right, and I'll share with you guys the code, the example. Example. There you go. That's in Slack. For anyone working on the bonus, I'm gonna give you guys a hint. On the first bonus, sorry, I did add two bonuses. I added a bonus after the example, but for the get user input, make it dynamic, that bonus, my hint to you is that you're gonna have to figure out that basically gets.chomp always gives you a string. And so when you're trying to compare a string right now with an integer, which doesn't make sense. So how can you make it so that way you're changing it to be an integer comparing with another integer? That's the kind of thing you're gonna have to maybe research a little, try to figure out and critically think that, or yeah, do some research. That's the challenge, though. Hey, Pico. So on yours, so let's take that error. So it says unmatched and missing keyword do ref if etc. whatever. And it says it's on line 17. So let's go ahead and go to line 17. All right, cool. So if you remember when we first mentioned conditionals, I said if there's an if, there's an end. And so every end needs it like an if that it's connected to. So we see there's the if, but then we see there's two ends there. So what is this end and this else for? Is my question to you. Perfect.
I think it was on like an auto. I don't know what it
Potentially.
was.
It no,
Yeah.
VS Code does that sometimes. But yeah, so that's what I was saying though. Go and try running it again. All right, cool. Let's see. Oh, it didn't save.
Oh shit.
Do Control S. All right, cool. Try running it again. So yeah, actually it should save.
Am I doing
That's
it
the
wrong?
file. No, that's the spelling. If you look, there's no C.
Oh, sorry.
Now you get. So what I'd recommend, click tab, tab instead. So if you start typing something in and then you just click tab, it'll finish it for you basically. So
Oh.
you're going to type in Ruby first, Ruby space, and then like type in P and then click tab. There you go.
Sure.
Yeah. So if there's a file in there that includes that already, it'll complete it for you.
Then undefined local variable Joe.
Gotcha. Yeah. Perfect. You already knew exactly how to fix it.
Yeah. Mm,
Nice, Kiko. The other thing though, real quick, is you'll get this error eventually, is I saw you have to change this to from number to age. So you'll also have to change
yeah.
it here. Anywhere basically that you're using number, you'll have to change it.
Oh, that's why it didn't finish it out.
No. So it didn't it did exactly what you expected. So you gave that it's 21, and so that's why it only did this first condition. It's not going to do any other condition if this first one's true. It's basically going to go down the list of conditions and be like, which is the first one that's true? And then it's going to do whatever it is you tell it to do, which is exactly why it did this first thing. It printed that out.
So I gave it too much information.
No. So scroll up a little bit.
Oh,
Okay. Actually, here, can we drag this thing down a little bit? Like drag the terminal down just a little bit. So that way, okay, cool. That's perfect. All right. So basically the way that these conditions work is that it's like, okay, so first let's comment out this number line 5 because we're resetting. So you created this variable age and then you set it to gets.chomp originally, but you weren't using it because you reset it to be 21. Okay.
okay.
So now, no, but now within here, so what's the way this is working is it's going to go through each condition, or it's like, okay, age is 21. If this is true, do whatever this says. And then from there, it goes straight to the end. If line 7's false, it's going to go to the next condition. Is this true? If it is, then do what it says to do right there. If it's not, then go to line 11. If this is true, do what it says here. If that's not true, go to line 13. And then the else hits. And the else is basically if everything fails above, do this. So it's just
Okay.
you're not giving it too much information. It's good because you're being really specific. And so you're just giving it a lot of different conditions, which is perfectly fine. That's how the real world is. There's gonna be a lot of conditions. If this, then that, else this, whatever.
So it solved it.
Correct.
Okay. Okay.
So, I
Cool.
mean, the way that you can test it though is change the age to be something else. And before you do that though, just a reminder, because you changed this from number to age, correct?
So change them all to age.
Correct. Because technically number doesn't exist. So it's going to give you that same error that you had earlier, where it's like,
Oh,
hey, undefined local variable method number.
okay. Got you.
Yeah. So change that, change this one, and then change that one. And so then the next thing I want you to try to do is change this from being 21 to being something else. You can basically try to hit every condition. Make it to be something between 21 and 30. Make it to be over 30. Make it under 21, because then you'll hit the else, etc. So test every condition that you created.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it should be higher or lower?
It depends on which condition you're trying to hit. So I want you to think about what the way that you set these conditions. So what does age need to be to, for example, hit this condition? What does it need to be to hit this condition?
I'm just gonna try them all.
Yeah, no, try it all. That's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah, you should try it all. Cool. So you can see it says you are within the age range of 21 to 30, and that's because within 21 to 30, you told it to print
Yeah, yeah.
that out.
Okay.
Perfect. Yeah, there you go. You got it.
But if it wants it to like find more information, like with the gets chomp, do you have to add in more to
Correct.
these? Okay.
So you'll need to prompt the user to for whatever information it is you want and assign it to a variable.
Okay, I got you.
Cool. All right, you guys are good to stop sharing your screen. And I want to show you guys, we'll walk through this solution together. And I'm going to show you guys one more thing. It'll be really quick. It's kind of just, it goes straight with this, or it goes along with this, and then we'll wrap up. Okay, let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay, so the first exercise was this. Let me comment all of this out first. The first episode was this. Write a conditional, sorry, I switched and I didn't change that. Write a conditional that checks if the user's age is 18 or older and outputs an appropriate message. And kind of building upon that, just to go to the next thing, I added this as the extra bonus. So modify their age check, modify this program, modify the age check program to categorize the ages. If you're under 13, you're a child. If you're between 13 and 19, you're a teenager. And if you're above 20, you're an adult. And then finally, then the last thing I'll do is I'll make this dynamic. So let's work through this together. I'll do that after. So the condition to check if a user's age is 18 or older, the first thing we're going to do is we'll need some sort of variable. So let's just set it to 18. And if they're 18, say the appropriate message. And actually, I'm just going to start doing this one. So, okay, let's do if age is greater than or equal to 18, or it says technically this one says 20. So we'll say 20. And we'll change this to 20. So if age is greater than or equal to 20, and then from there, I'm going to make sure that I put my end right away. So that way I don't forget it. And then from there, I'm going to say puts, you are an adult. The next condition is if they're between 13 and 19. So next, else if age is greater than or equal to 13. Actually, dang, this is kind of the next thing that I wanted to go through. Let's just do this simple one first. We'll just do this first. Ruby practice.rb. Oh, sorry. I need to remove that slash. Sorry. There you go. So you're an adult. Perfect. So I guess kind of the next thing to show you guys how to do this is we have two other operators that I want to show you guys. Sorry, we'll get to that in just a second, the solution to that. So there's the and there's the or. And the way this works is that we can say, for example, if age is greater than or equal to 20, let's say if age is greater than equal to 20, I'm just going to give some random thing. I'm going to say and name equals Leon. And I'm going to do age equals 20. Sorry, let's use double equal sign. Name equals Leon. So basically the way this is going to work, obviously this condition doesn't make sense. Keep that in mind. But the way that this is going to work is we're saying if age is greater than or equal to 20 and name equals Leon, then print you're an adult named Leon, whatever. So if I run this, cool, it says you're an adult named Leon. However, if either of these fails, if either of these is false, then this condition fails. So as soon as I change this to Lana, for example, now it doesn't print anything because now this is false. Another thing that we can do to show you guys the or is we could do, instead of it being and, we can do or, which is the pipes. So now it's saying if age is greater than or equal to 20 or your name is Leon, you are okay to enter. I don't know. Whatever. You are okay to enter. So now if I run this, we can see it says you are okay to enter. Even though name doesn't equal Leon, age is greater than or equal to 20. As soon as I make this 19, now this should fail because both of these conditions are failed. So basically what this solves is it allows us to add multiple different conditions. And it's saying, hey, if either of these conditions are true, then do this. Or with the ampersands, then this is saying if both of these are true, then do this. Okay, that was the last thing I wanted to share with you guys. And I guess the last thing, just to show you guys the solution for the gets.chomp, because I told you guys it's not as straightforward. So if I change this to gets.chomp and I try to run this, say 10, we're getting an error. The error we're getting says comparison. So this first it says practice RB line 192, because that's right here. And it says comparison of string with 20 failed. Argument error. Basically, we're trying to compare. So by default, gets.chomp is a string. And to show you guys that, we can go puts age dot class. And so if I print this out, even though I typed in a number, I typed in 10, it's still a string because technically what it's printing out is it's printing out 10 like this. So what we have to do in order to get this to work is we have to convert age to be a number. So one thing we can do is just add dot to I. If you guys remembered earlier, I did 2s to change it to a string. Now I'm doing 2 underscore I to change it to be an integer. So now if I run this, so if I change 10, cool. Now we can see it's no longer erroring out. If I run it again and I make it 20, we should see, okay, you're okay to enter, whatever it is, etc. And so this is another kind of built-in Ruby method that we can use depending on whatever it is that we're trying to do, basically. So we're using it here because we're trying to compare a number to, or an integer to another integer. And so we had to convert the user's input from a string to an integer. Okay. Any questions? Yes.
So you did two methods at once on that one, right?
Correct.
The get stuff. So like what's the max number of methods you can call at one time before it
I
like
don't think,
splits itself?
yeah. No, very good question. It's a really solid question. I don't think there is a max. I think it's just like, it's like when you start adding too many things, it's like, it just won't work. Not because it's too many methods you're chaining, but it's because like those methods are going to be conflicting.
Mhm.
So for
Okay.
example, going back to these ones, it's like here, so I'm going to comment this out. Let me comment this stuff out real quick. And let's go to our upcase and stuff. I'm going to uncomment this. Let's run this real quick. Cool. So let's go ahead and do this. So I can, for example, do dot upcase dot reversed. And I can run this. Cool. It works. And if I wanted to, I could now do dot downcase, but like it kind of doesn't make sense to do that. Now it is lowercase and it is reversed, but it also originally it started with the regular like I gave it, and then it uppercased it, then it reversed it, and then it made it all downcase. And so I could continue going here. I can like okay dot capitalize, run it again. Now we can see the U is capitalized because we reversed it, downcased it, and then capitalized it. Like we can continue going further and further, but it's like, does it make sense to do that? That's more of the question. Yeah, great question. Cool. Comments, questions? You guys have anything? All right, cool. Well, I'm gonna start wrapping up. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. And yeah, so this is officially congrats to you all. We officially kind of finished the first day. Um, so this is roughly the way class is going to be structured. Today we were able to finish pretty much right on time. Thank you, Adrian, for that. Thanks. Today we were able to finish right on time. So the way each class again, it'll be we'll start the day, we'll start at 6, do question of the day, hotkey of the day, and then from there we're going to kind of get into the curriculum. The curriculum is going to be some sort of concept. I'll explain what it is, maybe why it's important. Show you guys a demo. I'm going to give you guys an exercise for you guys to try out. We'll go through the solution together. We'll go on to the next one. And then from there, once again, every hour except for the last hour, we'll get a 10-minute break. Yeah, cool. That's all I have. Great job. I think everyone here killed it today. You guys all did great. I just want to emphasize, don't hesitate to ask questions. There's genuinely no dumb questions. Shoot a message to me if you don't want to say it out loud. Shoot a message to Lana, whatever it is. Yeah, you guys are killing it. I don't have anything else. So you guys have a great night. I'll hang out for a second. If you guys have any questions, but you guys have a great night, and I'll see you guys tomorrow at 6. See you guys.
Thank you guys.
Sure, guys. Good night. Stop.
Laters.